3 months. A lot can happen in 3 months. Games can be launched in 3 months. Games can die in 3 months. Overkill's The Walking Dead. This isn't necessarily a review of Overkill's The Walking Dead, seeing as I never bought the game, but Tuesday night, Skybound announced that they had terminated their contract with Starbreeze and were discontinuing Overkill's The Walking Dead. And by Wednesday, it had been taken off of sale on Steam. You cannot buy a new copy of Overkill's The Walking Dead anymore. The game had been kind of canceled on consoles for a short while as Sony had issued refunds on pre-orders. But yeah, no, it's dead. It's officially dead. Launched November 6th, 2018, Overkill's The Walking Dead is, it's a game. Cutscenes and music were pretty solid. Gameplay was relatively anemic. Sales weren't good, and now we're here. Again, this isn't really a review, it's a postmortem at this point. What happened? Well, we gotta start at 2014. Overkill announced that they were working on a Walking Dead game. All we knew was that it was happening, and that we were getting a baseball bat out of it, but that was about it. Internally, though, Overkill's The Walking Dead was originally planned to be built in Diesel like Payday 2, but boast a large, persistent world for players to come back and visit. Well, originally planned, and that Bo Anderson really wanted The Walking Dead to have an ever-growing hub world because he probably played Destiny once and thought it was the coolest thing he'd ever seen. Meanwhile, Starbreeze was funding a Payday 2 competitor at the time for some reason, and they spent 73 million krona, like $8 million, on the Valhalla game engine. Because hey, you want a new game engine? Here's a new game engine. They literally just kind of found it, bought it for $8 million, and that was it. They lacked basic features, and they expected it to run a mass-scale VR game called Storm, and a Destiny with Zombies clone in this engine. Yeah, that was destined to happen, wasn't it? I mean, even the folks at Overkill hated it. They said it was unworkable. In most cases, the engine was fighting against you. It was taking too long to develop a decent level of usability. Bo Anderson was still destined to make Starbreeze a household name. He was partnering with VR companies to get the company developing VR films and cafes in Valhalla, which they spent $8 million on, even though it was half finished. Smart. That's a smart move, Bo Anderson. Can we get a smart move, Bo Anderson counter? We're at 1. Or are we at 2? We're like at a lot already. About paragraph in. At long last, the upper management at Starbreeze bowed to the programmers, and the Valhalla engine was dumped in favor of the Unreal Engine for Starbreeze's newest projects, Overkill's The Walking Dead included. That sounds good on paper, but then you realize that the game now had a release date of late 2018. It was August 2017, and faster than the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter retweeting right-wing Brazilian propaganda, which also happened as the same day as this cancellation. Well, it was the evening of the 25th, but it was practically the 26th. It was practically Tuesday. Starbreeze had rendered over a year of dev time in Valhalla useless, and Overkill now had just a year to make a AAA game in the Unreal Engine. Not an impossible feat, but you need a ton of people, way more than pretty much any other company would actually need, and they'd all have to be experts on Unreal right out of the gate. Do I need to explain what happened next? I think it tells itself. The Overkill crew was still mostly working on Payday 2 at this point, and Star VR was where most of Starbreeze's money was going if it wasn't these ridiculous offices they rented out in, like, the most expensive places on the earth. Take your pick. Name an expensive city. They pretty much had an office in it, guaranteed. Also, 90% of Overkill had zero experience in Unreal 4. They were completing the tutorials on the website or Googling how to do certain things in the engine while trying to make a AAA quality game in it. So there's a year left to make this game happen, and Bo keeps coming back from his weekends off with new ideas. Overkill's The Walking Dead, in his head, was still going to have its Destiny-style MMO hub world, but it was also going to have the PvP zones from The Division. It was going to have exploding zombies like Left 4 Dead, Far Cry's Immersion, the dexterity of Assassin's Creed, the brutality of Doom 2016, and he's doing nothing but overcomplicating what was already an overcomplicated project from minute 1. Development continued into E3 where things got screwy. Yeah, even screwier.
How screwy was it?
I'll tell you how screwy it got. The higher-ups at Starbreeze brought the game to E3 and reported back to the devs that people loved it. They were waiting hours to play it in one of the most packed queues at E3. However, the devs checked Twitter and they're only seeing a small mattering of mixed, average reviews of the game. It turned out the Starbreeze staff was outright lying to Overkill. One of the devs that went along to E3 to troubleshoot if things went wrong actually mentioned that they had to cancel at least one demo because the mission on offer, which was the opening mission in the retail game, just wasn't fun and nobody liked it. You might notice I'm using Overkill and Starbreeze kind of interchangeably. It's not necessarily interchangeably. When I'm referring to like the developers, the programmers, the artists, it's Overkill's staff. They were working on the game. Starbreeze was funding it. They were also causing a lot of problems. A bunch of the Starbreeze staff in the modern day was former Overkill staff, people who worked on Payday the Heist. Essentially, Bo Anderson was given the CEO position of Starbreeze, and he picked and chose all of his friends and all of his yes men to fill Starbreeze. And the people he didn't particularly like stayed at Overkill. And when Overkill made a good thing, when Payday 2 made like a ton of money, then he was fine with them. But then when they weren't doing so well, there was kind of scorn. I don't know what else to call it. It is kind of scorn. And then we get to Crunch. 100-hour work weeks, 6 or 7 days a week, and people fainting and falling ill. Crunch sucks. It should never have to come to this. And the push Starbreeze had on Overkill was immense. There had now been this mad rush to get the game done. Vacation days were offered for Christmas 2018 and into 2019 for Crunch devs, and when nobody really took it, the option to cash out vacation days for extra money for the holiday season was offered. Finally, after Starbreeze squeezed the devs at Overkill for all they had and then some, Overkill's The Walking Dead launched on November 6th, and it went down, about as well as you'd expect THQ Nordic hosting an AMA on 8chan. That also happened that Tuesday as well. People complained that it felt like an alpha, because it was technically an alpha. I mean, can you call a game that didn't really have a game dev document, instead was just kind of a big board of Bo Anderson's 2018 backlog feature complete? I wouldn't, and most of Overkill couldn't. They knew it was a hacked-together beta, and trying to defend it as something more, something misunderstood, just doesn't hold much water. The people at Overkill can't really be proud about it. The people who animated, the people who did the cutscenes, the musicians. They have something there as a portfolio piece, but they can't... I don't think one of them is going to point to Overkill's The Walking Dead and say, yes, that was my thing. I could see so many of the people who worked on Payday 2 being proud of Payday 2 and saying, yes, I was a part of this. I just see Overkill's The Walking Dead as a string of portfolio pieces, honestly. They were hoping that the game's initial sales could generate the revenue to keep the game developed, get Season 2 out, and try to go back and update Season 1 with improved content and try to fix the problems. So when it sold worse than the notion that Melee wouldn't be at EVO, why were all of these the same Tuesday? The 26th of February is just a cursed day, it seems. I mean, we're talking like 100,000 copies. Anyways, it came out that Starbreeze might not actually have the money to pay for people cashing out their bonuses. And then there was that whole mess about insider trading that probably make for a great little ballad. Bo Anderson stepped down from Starbreeze's CEO position, but not before blaming the devs who weren't willing to, quote, put the extra care in a product like Overkill's The Walking Dead. And then he announced in his resignation email that he would get to work on Storm, his Payday Destiny clone with full-scale VR technology. Overkill's The Walking Dead is not a good game, almost by design. Mismanagement kept the game from being something great. The Walking Dead, as an experience, is more than just shooting zombies. It's a story about people trying to come together in a lawless place, about finding structure in the structureless. The Telltale games do a great job at telling these stories of people, but they're point and clicks. And The Walking Dead almost seems perfect to live life as a shooter. Overkill's The Walking Dead comes very, very close. The main protagonists aren't just staving off zombies, but also the family. This group of manipulative charlatans who try to con the survivors and end up seeking revenge on them after they decline their offer. There's evidence here that people who wrote the scenario for Overkill's The Walking Dead cared for the source material, though this might just be helped by the fact that Robert Kirkman had a hand in making the game a reality at a handful of junctions in its life. Still, it was more than just a zombie fighting game. Had the game been given the extra year of care it deserved, Overkill's The Walking Dead could have been great. It could have been something lovely. But let's be serious, Bo Anderson kind of ruined it. He's ambitious, dangerously slow. He flew too close to the sun, and everyone paid the price. Michael Nurmark, the current CEO of Starbreeze, is just set on trying to get the company back on its feet in its current state, but the fact of the matter is that Payday 2 is done. Its story is over, its team's moved on to other projects, and nobody's in the market to buy it for more than they have to. It goes on sale all the time. Why buy it at full price when you can get it for $15 every 3 months? Starbreeze's other Payday-like game, Raid, hasn't been updated in 8 months. And honestly, that's probably for the better. Lion Game Lion's kind of hanging low at this point. There's been talk they might announce something soon. They probably have a better chance than Overkill at this point. Their biggest cardinal sin is releasing a mediocre game in 2017. And they spent other people's money to do it. And it wasn't a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. So who knows? Starbreeze really hasn't had a hit on their hands this decade, save for Payday 2 and Dead by Daylight. And they sold the rights to Dead by Daylight back to the developers in 2017. They don't have much left. System Shock's rights have gone back to their devs, so all Starbreeze really has in the cards these days is Psychonauts 2, which is on thin ice, and Payday 3, should the game even get to happen. Starbreeze is on its last legs, and with it, 200 people could be out of a job one day very, very soon, which is a shame. I know there's tons of Swedish companies that'd be willing to take them in and give them a home and a place to work, but it's all just an absolute shame. Season 2 of The Walking Dead had begun to put Overkill back on their feet. The general consensus is that these were much better maps and objectives. They weren't still great, but compared to Season 1, this was a breath of fresh air. It was a bit more fun. This does not excuse the fact that the $60 game got them all for free, Season 1 and 2, but would never go on sale. Instead, the $30 starter version would go on sale, but that had the added benefit of requiring you to buy each DLC individually with no chance to upgrade to the full version. But that's not even important anymore. 2 of the 3 released episodes were free, and the company can't produce anymore now that the contract is out of the window. And again, they pulled the game from Steam. It's dead. I sincerely wish the developers, the artists, the animators, and musicians who brought Overkill's The Walking Dead to life the best of luck and pray that they can get themselves back in order. It's sad to know how many talented, wide-eyed people enter the industry and are run through the ringer like this. Overkill's staff deserve the best. I feel like I learned a lot today. I learned that this counts as a review of Overkill's The Walking Dead, and I also learned that Tuesday is a very dangerous day. Well... Hey, go check out Wesley Yin-Pool's article, The Fall of Starbreeze on Eurogamer. It's a fantastic read, and it's one of the most in-depth looks at the company. And it's all the more fascinating to read now that Skybound has pulled the plug on Overkill's The Walking Dead. Oh, Patreon and all that too. You know the drill.